Have you ever found yourself wondering why some people stay in your heart and mind long after you've met them? Maybe you only spent a few hours together, maybe just one conversation, yet something about them lingers. Their presence echoes in your thoughts for days, weeks, or even months. It's fascinating, isn't it? And here's something that may surprise you. The men women remember most are rarely the ones with the flashiest cars, the most expensive watches, or the biggest bank accounts. Those things may attract attention for a moment, but attention and emotional impact are not the same thing. What truly makes a man unforgettable is something far deeper, something that touches emotions rather than appearances. Think about it this way: a beautifully wrapped gift might catch your eye, but what stays with you is what's inside. The same principle applies to attraction. While appearance can open a door, it cannot create the emotional connection that causes someone to think about you long after you've gone. The men who leave a lasting impression understand a simple truth. People remember how you made them feel. When a woman experiences warmth, authenticity, and emotional safety around a man, that feeling becomes attached to him. She carries it with her, and often, without even realizing it, she finds herself replaying conversations, remembering little moments, and wondering when she'll see him again. Before we go any further, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever met someone who stayed in your mind for months, even though you barely knew them? What was it about them that made such an impression? Share your thoughts in the comments because your experience might resonate with someone else watching. And if you've ever felt frustrated trying to understand attraction, know that you're not alone. So many people believe they're missing some secret formula when, in reality, the answer is often much simpler and much more human than they realize. I'm Mary Smith, host of Senior Mindful Living YouTube channel. One of the biggest mistakes many men make is believing they need to perform. They approach dating like an audition. Every word is carefully rehearsed, every gesture is calculated, every silence feels dangerous. They worry about saying the perfect thing and avoiding every possible mistake. The date becomes less about connection and more about presentation. But here's the problem: human beings are incredibly sensitive to authenticity. Even when we can't explain it logically, we often sense when someone is trying too hard. Imagine sitting across from someone who seems to have a scripted response for everything. At first, they might appear confident, but after a while, something feels off. The interaction lacks warmth, it lacks spontaneity, it lacks life. I once spoke with a woman who described two very different first dates. The first man arrived with impressive credentials, endless stories about his accomplishments, and perfectly rehearsed charm. The second man accidentally spilled a little coffee on the table, laughed at himself, and turned the moment into a shared joke. Guess which man she remembered months later? Not the polished performer. She remembered the man who felt real. Psychologists have studied this phenomenon extensively. Research consistently shows that authenticity creates trust, and trust creates emotional connection. When people perceive someone as genuine, they feel safer around them. Safety may not sound exciting, but emotionally, it's one of the most powerful foundations of attraction. Many people assume confidence means dominance, perfection, or flawless execution. In reality, genuine confidence often looks surprisingly ordinary. It looks like comfort. It looks like ease. It looks like someone who doesn't need constant validation to feel worthy. Think about the people who naturally draw others toward them. They aren't usually the loudest person in the room. They don't constantly seek attention. Instead, they possess what could be called emotional gravity. Just as gravity quietly pulls objects together, emotional gravity gently attracts people without force or pressure. These individuals don't spend their energy trying to convince others of their value. They already recognize their own worth. Because of that, they can focus on something far more important: connection. One practical exercise I often recommend is something called the curiosity shift. Before entering a conversation, stop asking yourself, will this person like me? Instead, ask, what can I learn about this person? This simple shift changes everything. Suddenly, the conversation is no longer a performance, it becomes an exploration. Notice how differently you behave when you're genuinely curious. You listen more closely, you ask better questions, you become more present. And presence is incredibly rare in today's distracted world. Have you ever been talking to someone and felt like they were only half listening? Maybe they were checking their phone or waiting for their turn to speak. Compare that to someone who gives you their full attention, someone who listens carefully, remembers details, and responds thoughtfully. Which person leaves a stronger impression? The answer is obvious. We remember people who make us feel seen. And here's where many men underestimate themselves. They believe they need fascinating stories, extraordinary achievements, or endless charisma to be memorable. But often, what people remember most is not what you said about yourself. It's how you made them feel about themselves. A woman may not remember every detail of a conversation, but she'll remember whether she felt comfortable. She'll remember whether she felt understood. She'll remember whether she felt accepted. This is why vulnerability can be so powerful. Notice that vulnerability is not oversharing or seeking sympathy. Healthy vulnerability simply means being willing to be human. Perhaps you share a story about a mistake you made at work. Maybe you talk about a lesson you learned from failure. Maybe you admit feeling nervous in a new situation. These moments reveal character. They show that you're secure enough to be imperfect. Ironically, the people who try hardest to appear flawless often create distance. Perfection is intimidating. Humanity is relatable. Another important truth is that attraction often grows through emotional experiences over time. While physical appearance may create initial interest, lasting attraction usually develops through repeated positive interactions. Imagine two men. One relies entirely on appearance and status. The other consistently makes a woman feel appreciated, heard, and emotionally comfortable. Months later, who do you think occupies more space in her thoughts? For most women, emotional experiences create stronger memories than superficial qualities. The brain naturally attaches significance to experiences that generate meaningful feelings. This is why a simple conversation can sometimes leave a greater impression than an extravagant display of wealth or status. There's also tremendous value in building a fulfilling life outside of dating. People become more attractive when they have passions, goals, friendships, and purpose. Not because these things impress others, but because they create genuine fulfillment. When your entire happiness depends on whether someone likes you, interactions become filled with pressure. But when your life is already meaningful, you approach relationships differently. You're sharing your life rather than trying to fill a void. Think about the difference. One person enters a conversation hoping to be rescued from loneliness. Another enters simply excited to meet someone interesting. The energy is completely different. Women often notice this difference immediately. One feels needy, the other feels grounded. If you're looking to develop this quality, here's a simple challenge. For the next week, focus less on being impressive and more on being present. During conversations, listen without planning your next response. Ask follow-up questions, notice details, stay curious. Practice accepting small imperfections instead of hiding them. You may be surprised by what happens. People are drawn toward authenticity because authenticity gives them permission to be authentic too. When you stop pretending, others often stop pretending as well. That's where real connection begins. And perhaps that's the greatest secret of all. The men women remember aren't necessarily the richest, the most handsome, or the most successful. They are the men who create genuine emotional experiences. The men who are comfortable enough to be themselves. The men who listen deeply, connect honestly, and allow attraction to unfold naturally rather than forcing it. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Your experience could help someone else who is struggling with confidence or connection. And if you enjoy exploring the psychology behind attraction, relationships, and personal growth, make sure you subscribe and join our community. Remember this: you do not become unforgettable by trying to be someone else. You become unforgettable when you fully embrace who you already are. Real connection begins the moment performance ends, and often that's the exact moment someone starts thinking about you long after you've walked away.